Hello grade 2-3. I am coming to you from my office where I'm shooting this video because I'm not going to be with you over the course of the next couple of days because I am at a conference in Edmonton. So I'll be up in Edmonton. So I thought that I would help Mrs. McBeath out and the substitute teacher that's coming in for me so that I could teach you through this video. What we're going to do today to start with is we are going to take a few minutes to read the story Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. I'm going to get Mrs. McBeath to read this story to you, but what I want you to think about is the sequence of events, the things that take place in order from the beginning of Alexander's day all the way to the end of Alexander's day. Because he really did have a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. But I want you to think about all the things that took place in order to poor Alexander on this not very good day. So Mrs. McBeath is going to read this story to you, and then after we're going to play another part of a video that talks about all the things that took place in Alexander's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Okay, everybody, now that we've read through this story, let's think about the series of events, the sequence of events, the timeline of things that took place throughout the story. So in Alexander's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, he starts his day having a horrible day. He got gum in his hair and all that kind of stuff on the very first page. And then he talks about going down for breakfast and having no toys in his cereal. That when he got a ride to school, there was no room in the carpool, and he said he was being smushed, and he said he was being scrunched. Those are great triple scoop words. When he got to school, the teacher didn't like his drawing of the invisible castle. He sang too loud and left out 16 when he was counting. Paul said he wasn't his best friend anymore. His mom forgot to put dessert in his lunch. The dentist found a cavity in his teeth. And then he was fighting with his brothers. The shoe store didn't have the right runners for him, so they had to buy something he didn't really like. And he made a mess in his dad's office when they went to pick him up from work. When he got home, they had lima beans for supper, and there was kissing on TV, and he hates both of those things. Then when he was getting ready for bed, he had a hot bath, he had got soap in his eyes, and he had to wear his railroad train pajamas. That's my favorite line. I hate my railroad train pajamas. And then he talked about having a horrible ending to the day. This is what we call a timeline. These things all took place in order, one after another, on Alexander's terrible, no good, very bad day. Horrible, terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Please notice that I've written only one sentence about each of those events that took place. Something simple, and I put them in the order that they happened during the day. That's really, really important. So boys and girls, what your job is going to be now is you're going to come up with a timeline of things that happened to you. Now, you may have a very, very bad day. And I know I had a very, very bad day. So I'm going to show you in a second a list of things that I came up with about my very bad day. All right, so this is where your story comes into play. This is an example of Mrs. L's bad day. So you'll notice on this sheet you're going to be given the timeline sheet. There's 10 spots. You don't have to use up all 10, but if you have 10 things that took place in a day that were important for you to write about, you could list them here. But I've only got 6 because I'm just going to write about my bad day in terms of my morning, one morning. And this actually happened to me one day. So it was a pretty brutal day. So the first thing that happened for me is that I slept through my alarm. And I'm just writing a simple sentence about what happened in a sequence. Then the next thing that happened is I had to wake up my grumpy kids. And they did not want to get out of bed. So that was really not great. I'm going to tilt that back a little more so you can actually see my face. The third thing that happened is when I had a shower, I got shampoo in my eyes. And so I got myself ready and I got myself dressed and I went downstairs, we had breakfast, and I went to the fridge and I realized I forgot to make lunches. So we had to scramble like crazy to try and get lunches together for everybody so everyone didn't starve at lunchtime. And then After I got my kids on the bus, on my way to work, I got stuck in traffic. So I had to wait. It was red light after red light after red light. And then when I got to work, I realized I left my laptop at home. And that is something that I use all the time. So this just gives you an idea of a sequence of events that took place in my bad day. Okay? Now, please notice with my list that I am not talking about tragic things. I'm talking about just an annoying bad day where everything just doesn't seem to go right. So we want to try and keep it, not in terms of a tragic event or something that's really, really sad, but we want to talk about a day that was just particularly crummy. So I've decided to talk about my morning, and actually by the afternoon it started to get better. So I actually might write about that as well. But this is sort of the timeline of things that took place for me. Now, I would like you to take a minute or two to think about a bad day that you may have had and some of the things that took place. Maybe your day started off really, really great, and then a couple of terrible things, boring, horrible things happened in the middle of the day that you didn't like, and then your day got better. That's okay to write about. Maybe you've never had a bad day in your whole life. And maybe you just have a spectacular day that you'd really like to write about instead and create a timeline for. So what I want you to do right now is take a couple of minutes. I want you to partner up with your writing buddy that your teacher is going to pick for you. And I want you to talk about a day that you might be able to talk about and write about. And I want you to think about the sequence of events, the timeline of things that happened in one day, not over the course of a number of days, one day. Okay, so go ahead and partner up with your partners to do that for a couple of minutes. Okay, everybody. So now that you've had a chance to talk with your writing buddy and hopefully share in your large group some ideas and some things that took place, the next step is for you to create your timeline. Everyone is going to get a sheet that looks like this, and the intention is for you to create a title at the top of the page. So mine was, I should have written Mrs. L's Terrible, Horrible Morning. That might have been a better title than Mrs. L's Bad Day. I could write about, you could say, Dylan's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. You can use the same title as what the story is. Or you could say Alexis's Best Day Ever. Or you could say any of those titles. So you need to come up with a title that sort of illustrates the story that you're going to tell. Then what you're going to do is you are, just like I did behind me here, you'll notice that I've written just simple sentences. You're not writing the whole story here. You're just listing events that took place over the course of that bad day, that bad morning, that great day, depending on what you're going to be writing about. So what you're going to do for the next probably 10 minutes or so is go back to your desks and start listing events that took place over the course of the day that you're going to write about. Remember, it's over the course of one day, not multiple days. So if you had something bad that happened during the day, but the morning was great, and then something bad happened in the afternoon, and then it got better, that's okay to write about. But it has to be over the course of one day, a series of events over the course of one day. So that's what your job is for the next 10 minutes or so. And then you're going to come back to the carpet, and you are going to do some sharing with your partner about what you decided to put and list your events. Okay, everybody, now that we've had time to share our timelines, I do want to share another story with you. It's also on a YouTube video, and someone else is reading this story, but it's called Mean Soup. And it's about this little boy who has had a terrible day and everything that's gone wrong. So I want you to sit back and enjoy this because it's like Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, but it's a little bit different. And I want you to think about the timeline, the series of events that are taking place in this story.
Mean Soup by Betsy Everett. It had been a bad day for Horace. He forgot to answer to question 3. Zelda gave him a love note. And Lulu, the show-and-tell cow, stepped on his foot. As if this wasn't enough, His mother sent Miss Pearl to pick him up from school. She swerved and screeched and nearly killed 3 poodles before they made it home. Horace felt so mean, he stepped on a flower. His mother said, "Hello," and Horace hissed. His mother said, "How was your day?" And Horace growled. His mother said, "Did you thank Miss Pearl?" And Horace fell on the floor. "Let's make soup," his mother said. Horace lay still. He felt mean, and he wasn't going to make soup. His mother filled a pot with water and set it on the stove. When the water got hot, she threw in some salt. Then, taking a breath, she screamed into the pot. "Your turn," she said. So Horace got on a stool and screamed too. His mother screamed louder. Horace growled and bared his teeth. The water started to boil. His mother stuck out her tongue. Horace stuck out his tongue 20 times. He banged on the pot with a spoon. He breathed his best dragon breath. Then he smiled. His mother smiled too. "What's the name of this recipe?" asked Horace. "Mean soup," she said. And they stood together, stirring away a bad day.
Okay, everybody, the next step that we're going to be talking about is the actual writing part. And this is where we're going to start looking at digging deeper, using triple scoop words, and really describing each of those events that took place in the day. Each of you is going to receive a little booklet that looks like this. So it's almost like you're writing a picture book yourself. And you'll notice that as we flip through it, okay, there's space for drawing and also space for writing. Okay, so you're actually going to create a picture book about your best day, your worst morning, your terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, depending on what it is that you are creating. Okay, now right now there's only space for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, but I will have more that we can add to the back. I just created 6 pages because I figured you probably won't get through all 6 in one day. But remember, this is just a pencil sketch drawing and then writing about the events. So I'm just going to model for you what you should be doing to start your book. Okay? So if on my whiteboard here, this was my very first page of my book, I want to go to the very first event that I wrote down on my timeline, because the timeline will help you create your story. And I'm going to draw a picture of my very first timeline event. And that was that I slept through my alarm. So I'm going to do a sketch. This is my bed. And my pillow. And my bedside table. And my alarm. I use my phone as my alarm. And there's me with great big eyes because I can't believe I've slept through my alarm. And my alarm is saying, beep. Okay? And you can see that I am panicked. So here I am panicked in my bed. So I'm going to draw a picture about that. Now, my job is to not just write that one sentence. I slept through my alarm. I want you to think about what happened during that event and write about it here. So I might say something like, my eyes snapped open suddenly. My alarm was beeping loudly. I rolled over and looked at my phone. Oh no, it's 6:55, I screamed. I jumped out of bed like a shot. Okay. Now, hopefully you understand that you want to really describe what's going on in this first event. Don't just write a single sentence down. Now that you have your event listed, go back to your event and say, okay, my first event was I slept through my alarm. I need to talk about that and dig really deep in my writing and add lots of information about what happened during that event. Okay? So that's your job, is you're going to use your timeline that you've written down to help guide you. So event 1 will go on page 1 of your book. Event 2 will go on page 2 of your book. Event 3 will go on page 3 of your book, etc. So you're writing 1 page for each event of the day that you've listed on your timeline. So by the end, you should have, if you have 10 events, you're going to have 10 pages of writing that go along with it. If you have 15 events, you'll have 15 pages of writing. If you have 6 events, you'll have 6 pages of writing. Remember, 1 page per event and digging deep with your writing. Don't just write a single sentence. Draw your picture that goes with the event first, then do your writing. Okay? Start with 1 event drawing. Don't go through and draw all the pictures. Draw 1 picture for the first event, do your writing. Draw pictures for the next event, then do your writing. Okay, so that's going to be your job, and you're really going to have to dig deep. Don't just write 1 sentence. Tell us all about what happened in that event. I look forward to seeing them when I get back.